Before we get to that though, we want to show you firsthand just how simple and easy Gen 3 is to use. Ryan and Julie are at a house right now with 2 rooms of PowerView shades, and they're going to walk through a home setup live from start to finish so you can see all the benefits I've highlighted and more.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Ryan. And we're so excited to be here with you today to live demo the PowerView Gen 3 system and showcase to you just how quickly you can set up a PowerView Gen 3 home in lightning fast time.
The home we'll be setting up has 2 rooms of PowerView Gen 3 shades. Now along the way, we'll point out various features of the Gen 3 setup experience. For the sake of this demo, Ryan will be the installer and I will be the homeowner.
So let's get started. Feel free to start your timer and see just how fast this installation of 9 PowerView Gen 3 shades is. Throughout this installation, I'm going to be using my own personal device, not Julie's. And you also notice I don't have access to Julie's Wi-Fi credentials or her password information.
That's right. With Gen 3, you will never need to access the customer's phone or have access to their Wi-Fi to set up a PowerView home.
That's right. PowerView Gen 3 utilizes Bluetooth to communicate.
Now your smartphones and tablets are already equipped with Bluetooth, so they're ready and able to connect directly to each shade. That's why Ryan doesn't need my Wi-Fi for setup.
So as soon as I've named the home, my PowerView network is automatically created.
This means no more pairing remotes at the start of a project. Simply begin setup by opening the PowerView app and you're ready to set everything up.
So at the very start, I'm prompted to select a primary power option for the home. And since Julie's home utilizes mostly rechargeable battery wands, I'm going to select rechargeable.
Now, even though Ryan selected rechargeable as my default power option, we can modify this power option of any shade once the setup of my home is complete.
The next thing we need to do is create a room for these shades to go into. Since this is the living room, I'm going to select living room. And immediately, all 9 of the shades on this project appear all at once. And this is where the new proximity tool for PowerView Gen 3 comes in extremely handy. The shades that are closest to me are going to appear at the top of the list. And there are 4 ways to identify which shade is which. I'll start by using the familiar jog feature. But as we go through and add additional shades to this room, we'll go through the other ways that you can identify which shade is which. So now that I know which shade this is, I'll name it. And then I'll follow similar steps to add the rest of the shades to the living room.
Now while Ryan's adding the remaining shades to this room, let me call out some great features he's using to help speed up his setup. In addition to shade proximity, Ryan is also using the shade thumbnail to identify shades. By simply tapping on that icon, he can fully operate the shade, which helps him better see which shade is moving and lets him know which shade he wants to add. Now, when it comes to naming shades, if one of the suggested names doesn't quite fit, you can always enter a custom name. The third way that Ryan can identify shades is by utilizing the shade position in the thumbnail. So earlier, when Ryan was installing these shades, he set one of these shades to 50% open. So when it comes time to add it to the room, he can simply scan the available shades and find the shade thumbnail that also shows a halfway open position. And that helps him identify the shade much more quickly. And what's more is that he can use this on future projects at the point of installation to make his setup that much more efficient. Now that we know that the shade thumbnails are displaying the shade's actual position in the window, Ryan can also use this to help identify shades by the basic product type. So as we look around the living room, the luminette is the only vertical product in this room. So again, Ryan can scan that available shades list, look for the shade thumbnail that shows a vertical product. And just like that, he's able to know that that's his luminette and he wants to add that to the room. The fourth and final way that Ryan can identify shades is by pressing the shade control button on the headrail to operate it. Now, thankfully, this doesn't need to be your primary means of identifying shades, but it is there for you if you need it. And notice how when Ryan's operating the shade, the position in that shade's thumbnail moves as well.
So now that I'm done adding all the shades to the living room, I hit the next button, and I receive confirmation that all shades have been successfully added. And then as soon as the shades have been successfully added, then I'm prompted to set up a remote for this room. So let's go ahead and set up a remote now. I'm taken to a virtual configuration screen where in the PowerView app, first I will name the remote, and then I will decide which shades should be assigned to which remote groups.
Now notice how Ryan has not touched the physical remote yet. With Gen 3, all remote setup is done entirely in the app. You don't have to pair them or anything. The PowerView app creates that singular home network at the very start.
So now that I'm done configuring the remote in the PowerView app, I need to go pick up the physical remote and sync the remote settings. And I follow the in-app steps to do this. And just like that, the remote is synced. It's just that easy. So keep those ladders in the truck. I'm then taken to the room settings page where I see all shades and remotes that have been added to this room. And I also see 3 preset scenes that have been added to the bottom of the page.
But Ryan, when did you create those scenes? I must have missed it.
You didn't miss it. The PowerView app automatically creates these scenes based on the shade that you add to a room.
Wow, that's incredible. What a time saver.
We're now finished adding shades to the living room. So let's move to the office. We'll follow similar steps to add the office shades.
Now again, notice how easy it is for Ryan to quickly identify and name each of these shades in this room. This is going to save you so much time on installation day. In fact, in the surveys that our HDIS beta users filled out, they consistently said that the Gen 3 home setup was significantly faster than their current setup experience today. By using these tools that we're sharing with you, you'll be able to save so much time on each Gen 3 project. It really couldn't be any easier.
So now I'm finished adding shades to the office, and once again, I'm prompted to set up a remote. And I have 2 options. I can set up a remote from scratch, or I can add to or copy from the living room remote that we set up earlier. Since Julie wants to use this remote exclusively in the office, I'm going to set up a new remote from scratch.
I can't emphasize enough how much time this is going to save you on installation day. Just think about it, not having to worry about paper clips, remembering button sequences on the remote, needing to pair remotes, or climb up a ladder after you've already installed the shade to pair each shade to the remote. By removing all these barriers with Gen 3, you'll save so much time on every Gen 3 project. It really couldn't be any easier.
I couldn't said it any better, Julie. And I'll sync this remote just like I did the last one. And as soon as I'm done syncing, I've completed adding all my remotes and my shades to this project. So I'm going to hit next, and I see the room settings page again for the office where I see all the shades, remotes, and preset scenes for the office. I hit done. I hit done again, and I'm taken to the next stage of the PowerView home setup process, which is all about the gateway. And I do have a gateway for this project, so I'm going to select yes and follow the in-app instructions to complete the gateway setup.
Now, while the gateway looks similar to today's hub, not all of its purposes are the same. We still get access to key features like third-party integrations and Remote Connect, but there are some key differences too. We'll be sure to cover more details about this after our demo.
Now remember when I said you didn't need the customer's Wi-Fi in order to complete the home setup process? This is just another installation where PowerView Gen 3 makes it that much easier on installation day. You can set up the gateway completely via Bluetooth, and then Julie, as the homeowner, can connect it to her Wi-Fi later on. So I'm going to select Continue without connection so I can get onto my next install and wrap up this project. So first, I name the gateway. And then the gateway immediately starts communicating with the PowerView app to start ensuring that all shades and rooms are within range of the gateway. So as soon as this process is complete, I hit next, and just like that, the gateway installation is complete. It's that easy, and I am done with this installation. Remember, I've done this installation completely on my own personal device using my own personal PowerView account. So how is Julie going to get PowerView Gen 3 set up on her side? This is going to be completely done through our transfer ownership process. And you can send your customers an email or a custom link with that home information that you just created. In this case, I'm going to send Julie an email. My job as the installer is complete. The rest of the home setup steps are now in Julie's hands, or in this case, inbox.
Thanks, Ryan. So let's check my email and get started. So when I'm looking at my email, I see that come through. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to tap Accept Ownership, and it's going to redirect me to the PowerView app. From here, I will sign into my PowerView account or create an account if I don't have one. Now, the key thing to remember here is that Ryan sent this invite to my specific email address. So when I'm creating or signing into my PowerView account, I want to make sure that I'm using the exact same email address. Otherwise, I'm not going to see the invite. I do have a PowerView account already, so I'll go ahead and sign in. Now, as soon as I sign in, I see that notification to accept ownership of my new home. So I'll tap Accept Ownership. Then I'm going to decide if I want to keep Ryan, my installer, as a user in my home. After that, I can also add additional users if I'd like. Now, I'll skip this step for now, but at any point later in the app, I can add additional users, like my family members. Now at this point, the app is going to ask me to connect my gateway to my home Wi-Fi network. Now as the homeowner, I have this network name and password handy, so I can easily enter that information and get my gateway connected to the internet. All right, and just like that, my gateway is connected to the internet, and I'm now able to use and operate my PowerView home. You'll notice some familiar things like the dashboard, rooms, scenes, and automations, just like the PowerView that you're used to.
All right, so that was a lot of information, and some of it was familiar, but a lot of it was new as well. So I'm sure there are some things that you would like us to re-emphasize or that you have questions about, so please keep entering your questions into the chat feature, and our team will continue to answer them. For now, I'm going to turn it over to another product manager of ours, Garrett, to go over some of the things that you saw during the live demo, and I'll join him later in the technical room to go over some of the hardware product launches that we'll be launching.
Thanks, Ryan. Some of the topics we'll cover in this recap are the PowerView network, remote setup, new home setup features, and the gateway. Finally, Ryan added a gateway at the end of the home setup. Let's unpack exactly what this new gateway is and the value it brings to your PowerView jobs. It's important to distinguish that while the gateway looks the same as the hub, it does not have the same features or purpose. First, let's talk about what is the same between the hub and the gateway. If you want to integrate your PowerView home with any third-party system or use voice control, you'll need a gateway. If you want to control your shades while you are away from your home through our Remote Connect feature, you also will need a gateway. However, even Remote Connect features today are different. Remote Connect only allows you to operate scenes today. With Gen 3, you can create, edit, and delete scenes and automations as well as control individual shades. It really will feel like your home, even when you're away. And best of all, you can be added as a user to your customer's home and remotely access all of their home details right from your office. Think of how many house calls this will save you. There are many more differences between today's hub and the Gen 3 gateway, but the single largest difference is that the gateway is not required to use the PowerView app. As we described earlier, your smart device connects directly to your shades via Bluetooth. This means the gateway is an accessory in the Gen 3 system, rather than the source of gaining access to the PowerView app. So, you might be thinking, if my phone connects directly to my Gen 3 shades, and my customer doesn't want to use voice control or remote connect, why would I need a gateway? I'm glad you asked. While Gen 3's Bluetooth technology significantly increases our range and reliability, you probably know from experience that every home is different. From concrete walls to long ranch-style homes, there might be a project that is particularly large or has several factors in the home that may interfere with radio frequency communication. Thus, the gateway acts as a range extender in Gen 3. That's why repeaters are not offered or needed in our new system. For those unique projects that require a little extra help with range, simply add a gateway to connect to every shade in the home. Finally, the gateway ensures the best PowerView experience, especially for clients who utilize automations and have more than 4 shades in their home. Seeing our beautiful shades move in sync is what makes the automation experience so amazing. If there's a room with more than 4 window treatments in it or automations that move multiple shades, a gateway will ensure these window treatments always move in sync with one another. And if there are shades in multiple rooms, the gateway provides the best whole home control. That's why we recommend including a gateway in all but your smallest projects. You saw how easy it is to set up through the app, and it takes only minutes at the end of your PowerView home setup, not at the beginning. And you don't have to have your customer's Wi-Fi to add it to the home. The next great Gen 3 feature we want to highlight is setting limits. As Scott mentioned at the very beginning of this segment, our 3 overarching goals with Gen 3 are reliability, scalability, and simplicity. And setting limits on your window treatments has never been simpler. Just like everything else related to setup, it's done solely through the PowerView app. Keep those ladders in the truck. To illustrate how easy this is, I'm going to adjust this roller shade's bottom limit. First, let's see where the bottom limit is currently set. Obviously, I want this to be much closer to the windowsill. So I go into my shade settings, and scrolling down to advanced features, I select modify shade limits. I want to adjust the bottom limit, and using the control panel, I can use the faster or slower speed to get the shade exactly where I want it to be. I hit set limit as current position, and I'm done. Let's prove I truly did just set the bottom limit. I'll go back into my shade settings, go back to the slider, and I'll just move it up a little bit. And then I'll slide it back to fully closed. And as you will see, instead of staying a few inches short of the sill, it now goes to the new set bottom limit. It's all done in the app. I didn't touch the shade's control button. I didn't touch the remote. All done solely through the app. Amazing.